Good morning, I'm Maiki Oreta and welcome to Industry Beacon, where we shine a light on the trailblazers, the disruptors, and the industry leaders shaping our future. And in each episode, we'll explore how they're staying ahead in their respective fields, one industry at a time. The Philippine restaurant industry has undergone a remarkable transformation in recent years, from adapting to the pandemic's challenges to embracing new culinary trends and technologies. As diners return to their favorite spots, restaurant operators are facing pressures from rising costs, evolving customer expectations, and a more competitive landscape. Today, we take a closer look at the industry behind the flavors and what it takes to stand out in this thriving but challenging environment. Joining us today is a leader in the Philippine food and beverage industry, Eric Teng. He's the president of Resto PH, the Association of Restaurant Owners in the Philippines. He's also the CEO and president of Mango Tree Restaurants Philippines, which is behind globally renowned brands like Mango Tree, Genki Sushi, Sanrio, and Tung Lok Seafood. He'll share his expertise on how the restaurant industry is navigating a changing economic landscape. Hi, Eric. Thank you for being here with us.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Okay, Eric, what makes this industry so interesting and challenging is that it's always changing. Can you give us a lay of the land? What is the current state of the restaurant industry in the Philippines?
I'm happy to say that the Philippine restaurant industry is booming, actually. It's growing quite fast. And you see a lot more trendy concepts and even international brands coming into our Philippine shores. Our local consumers are also very well traveled, so they do have a better appreciation for the finer things in life, shall we say.
Yeah, because customer expectations are just increasing
Yes.
so rapidly. Talk to us about the size of this industry. It's a vital contributor to the Philippine economy. Can you give us an overview of just how big it is in 2024?
Well, in 2029, for example, before the pandemic, we were employing over 2 million people. We don't have the latest figures, but we're very sure that it's far higher than that. As for the size of our industry, according to international estimates, we were $16 billion last year, and we are projected to be about $32 billion in about 2029.
And it's in dollars because you get this from foreign agencies,
Yes,
statistics
yes.
agencies.
Yes.
Okay, now that's interesting. That's about a little under 20% growth, and within 5 years, in 2029, you expect to double the growth of this industry. Where's all this growth going to be coming from, Eric?
Domestic consumers, we do have a growth in tourism, but we were growing our numbers even during the pandemic. When we observe other Asian countries, we seem to be the first and fastest to grow out of the pandemic. We were already close to normal around 2022, when other countries were just normalizing last year.
Now, talk to us about the biggest challenges in this industry. I know that locally, fake PWD cards, the proliferation of that takes a big chunk of the revenue of this industry. Can you talk to us about how big of a problem this is for restaurateurs?
We consider that a clear and present danger to the industry, not just for the identity of when we have an ID issued by the country, by our state, it's supposed to be verified, it's supposed to have integrity in it. Unfortunately, our PWD card system is, in our mind, very weak in terms of security features. We don't even have QR codes. There are more security features in a nursery card ID than a PWD card. So it's very easy for people, unscrupulous people, to fake. You can even buy it online. The problem now is that as more and more fake PWD cards come into fore, the restaurants would need to cover the expenses and they would need to raise prices.
Yeah.
And when we raise prices, the ultimate victims are the persons with disability. They're the ones who will be the ultimate victim from all these fake cards. So we're trying to stop that. We've been calling the attention of government and our legislators for some years now. And some positive actions have taken place. We have seen some PWD IDs with QR codes, such as Quezon City. And we hope that that can be mandatory for all LGUs to follow.
So in terms of security features, you want QR codes on each PWD card so that they can actually be verified?
Yes, so we don't need to call a government agency or the DOH anymore. We can just look at the card, scan it on our phone, and see if it's legit or not.
How bad is this problem, and how rampant is the use of fake PWD cards in the country? As a restaurateur, you've got several. Talk to us about the situations on the ground.
Our observation was around 5% of our sales was affected by it about 2 years ago. Now it's more than 25%.
More than 25%.
So it's significant. It's very common for us to see a table of 10 with 10 PWD cards. That's highly improbable that 100% of a table population is a disabled table, unless it's really for disabled people. The national average, or according to national data, it's less than 2%. The national population has 2% under 2% of declared persons with disability. And yet it's very common for us to see 100% population with PWD cards in our restaurants.
Yeah, I know you're talking to me earlier about a pilot in uniform who used a PWD card for blindness. That sounds so oxymoronic, a blind pilot, a legally blind pilot. But tell us about that situation.
Yeah, that was before the pandemic. That was one of the craziest things that that I experienced firsthand in our restaurant. There was a pilot dining, and he was in a pilot uniform. And upon payment of bill, he presented a PWD card for visual disability. We've also had experience where we have a husband and wife. They both have the same PWD card with the same serial number. And when they were questioned, they said it was a conjugal disability. We've had so many instances where the design of the Manila card, which is a white one, was being used by so many other LGUs. They just changed the name of the city. And we know that those formats were not the ones that are being used by those cities. For example, Quezon City, as I said, has a QR code, and it's a very different design. But we see so many of those white cards with Quezon City as the city.
It's a crazy way to get a 20% discount. But it's not right. But
it's a
the
crime.
government really needs to safeguard against this, because
I don't want to I don't want to over exaggerate the matter, but it is a crime. Simply put, it's a crime. It's stealing.
Absolutely, and prices are going to go up if it continues. It's 25% already of your sales. What more in the coming years? It's interesting to note, because people with disabilities, that's supposed to be just 2% of the population in the Philippines.
And it's very difficult for them to get a PWD card. You have to submit a medical abstract. You have to go through the steps, and it takes sometimes weeks. And it's not easy for them, especially if they're in wheelchairs and you have to take them to go through the process. But you can actually order that online now, the fake ones, and they'll deliver it to your home for as little as 150 pesos. And that's scary, because that means that it's the growth that I say from 5 to 25% just in the last 2 years would be significantly more in the next 6 months. So that's scary for us, because we are already facing a lot of problems with food supply, forcing us to import a lot of the things that we need because of our growth. But we also don't want to raise prices at the same time.
Talking about the other issues facing the industry, food supply issues. Talk to us about the problems that you're experiencing in this arena.
Restaurants, when you go to our restaurants today, you have salmon, you have steak. Those are not from here. Those are imported. We hope that our local production can also keep up, our farms, our agriculture, so that it can sustain the growth of the restaurant industry. Our industry is growing because our population, the young population, is now coming into the consumption habit. They're going to the restaurants habit. We also have a lot of tourism growing. They also expect certain levels of satisfaction in terms of food quality and service quality. So we're trying to meet that demand. However, supply is definitely an issue that we have to address.
Now, in terms of the changing economic landscape, interest rates are coming down. Inflation is within expectations. The banks have reduced, the reserve requirement ratio of banks has been reduced. That's going to be more money in the pocket of consumers to spend on dining, and Filipinos love to dine. What is your outlook for this industry in the years to come?
It's exciting. It's challenging. I look at it with a positive mindset, but I also am fearful of the minefield ahead. We don't really know what we don't know yet. When we have a lot of foreign brands coming in, there might be over competition. There might be a lot of local players that will be affected. So we are trying to help our local restaurant operators improve as well in terms of service standards and management standards, and try to get them locations as much as possible.
Now, on another front, technology is a big part of this industry now, whether restaurateurs like it or not. Regardless of their size, how are restaurateurs in the Philippines embracing technology?
The big word now is AI. And I am one of the worst people to talk about AI. I'm not a techie person at all. But I must appreciate that it's going to change everything. It's going to change the way we travel. It's going to change the way we get information. And it's going to change the way we disseminate information. But I think the restaurant industry, the food industry, is generally future-proof because we all have to eat. At the end of the day, whatever technology is out there, it boils down to getting a meal into someone's stomach.
Yes.
And that's going to be a constant, whatever we do.
Yeah, people will be hungry at least 3 times a day, sometimes with a
4 times
merienda
a day.
and midnight snack. Okay, all right. The industry relies heavily on skilled labor to deliver exceptional service. How is the industry addressing labor constraints and wage issues?
Compared to other countries, we actually don't have as big a labor problem as they do. Other restaurants can't even open 7 days a week because there's simply no staff. In the Philippines, we're lucky that there might be, when we say there's a labor shortage, it's just 10 or 20% of what we're normally used to. But we do have a huge pool of manpower that is available for our industry to grow with. Training is a very important part. Service training, the educated professional service training is something that is not yet standardized or something that is well known in our industry. But I'm happy to say that hospitality is innate and it's easy for us to train for service.
Okay, we're going to be taking a quick break. We'll continue this discussion after that. Industry Beacon will be right back. Welcome back to Industry Beacon, where we're continuing our discussion on the restaurant industry with Eric Teng, the president of Resto PH and the CEO of Mango Tree Restaurants Philippines. Okay, Eric, I wanted to get your thoughts on the tipping culture in the Philippines. We're very Western oriented. So in some respects, our tipping culture is very kind of like the US, but not as crazy. Although a lot of people I know would wish that we were like Japan in this regard. What are your thoughts on this issue, Eric?
Of course, our service staff would want tips. They would want to be more like the US. But the consumers, they would want not to tip. But actually, you'll be surprised that we often see tips that are equal or more than the bill because they're just so happy with their experience. Tips aren't required. Tips are optional. So that's what we aim to please. I just came back actually from the US and it is crazy. It's like a mandatory, it's in the bill already, 20%.
It's already in the bill and there's another tip as well. What's a good halfway mark here in the Philippines? You want to make the people in the service industry happy and you want to reward them for good service. But at the same time, you don't want the expectations to be so high all the time.
Yeah, no, there aren't. We're in the Philippines. Everyone aims to please in the restaurant industry. We're not pressuring anyone to do any tipping. It's always welcome. That's about all we can say about that. The servers try their best, but they're not really doing that for tip. They're doing that because they really want to give their best. They really want to please their customers.
Okay, all right. Eric, what advice can you give aspiring restaurateurs or people in this industry?
It's a very challenging industry, but it's also very rewarding. It's not as easy as people think, but it's also not as hard as people fear. There's somewhere happily in between. A mom with a good recipe can be very big very quickly in the Philippines, whereas somebody who has a lot of experience abroad won't necessarily make it in our local market. So there's a lot of homework that needs to be done. There's a lot of adjustments. There's a lot of Plan B and Plan C going on. But luckily, with our association, Resto PH, we're here to help. We're actually here to help aspiring restaurant owners or chefs to grow their businesses. We welcome them. People think that you need to be big to be a member in our restaurant. No, you can be a carinderia owner and be part of our restaurant group. And we will be very happy to help you with food safety, kitchen skills, sanitation skills, hygiene skills, so that you can grow your industry in a shorter period of time with less mistakes.
How many restaurants are under this organization?
Right now, we count around 200 members, but that's right now there's less than 3,000 restaurants, I think, or more, because there tend to be multi-brand restaurant chains. But we also have single brand chains. I actually have conversations. They'll ask me how to join, and I'll ask what kind of restaurant, and you'll be surprised. It's a very small restaurant that they're afraid they don't want to join. But no, that's the whole purpose of the existence of our association, to help the small player grow.
Speaking of helping the players in this industry, it's Christmas. If you could ask our government for 3 wishes for this industry, what would they be?
Oh, first, please help us with the PWD card system. It's crazy now. Secondly, the traffic system is going to be very bad, but that's also because economic growth is here. So when I see traffic jams, I'm not necessarily upset. I know when there's a traffic jam, the sales for tonight will be good. But when we see Monday traffic or Sunday traffic, it's not necessarily going to do well as well. Third is to open more inroads for foreign goods to come in, because expectations of the local consumers for quality is very, very different today than before. The restaurant scene is changing, not just by the year, but by the month. Every month is something different. We have foreign brands coming here all the time. So we are not looking at the local competitor or the local consumer. We're actually looking outside. We're looking at who wants to come into the Philippines. The Resto PH is also one of the founding members of the ASEAN Restaurant Association. We are one of the 6 founding members, together with Vietnam, Cambodia, Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia. And our role is to help each other grow our businesses as well. So if Philippine restaurants want to open in these markets, we can help facilitate that. But also foreign restaurants who want to come in, they also talk to us about it. The Philippine market is big. Our city is, we have a huge population, and everybody's looking for the new. We're all very tech savvy. Well, we're very, very social media savvy, to say properly. Therefore, the trends outside in English is very easily picked up by local consumers. So local consumers immediately expect what they see outside. And we in the restaurant industry aim to provide that supply as fast as possible.
And it's such a cutthroat industry. So many restaurants out there. There's so many places to choose from. What must restaurants have these days? What must they have in terms of personality traits to survive in this type of environment?
Interestingly, you use the word cutthroat, because I also thought the same way until we formed Resto PH. Then we realized we have a lot more in common than being competitors, because a lot of our competitors now are my best friends and also my partners. Right now, please don't be afraid to come into the restaurant industry, and don't be afraid to reach out to us. We're not there to harm you, we're there to help. Have that mentality of having that bayanihan spirit where we want to work together. We need more restaurants in the Philippines anyway. We need more properly trained kitchen teams out there. Be friendly, think about network, think about surviving, not just for the day, but for the week, for the month, for the year. And we're here to help, hold your hand if necessary, so that you can surmount all those difficulties. Just what I'm saying right now is what I learned, that it's not just up to you. You can also reach out to your friends for help. In our group chats, there's so many small restaurants asking for suppliers. Do you know a supplier for this thing? You have a supplier for this. You'd be surprised how many people contribute ideas. So within a click, you get all the information you need. It's a very fast way to grow and learn.
And you're stronger together.
We're stronger together. I always say the Filipinos are made to work together.
Okay, Eric, what has being in this industry taught you about conflict management in terms of how you deal with difficult situations and perhaps negative feedback or difficult customers?
Negative feedback is actually not a bad thing. We actually welcome to know about that. We would rather hear your negative feedback than for you not to come back. So we aim to adjust we aim to please every day. The restaurant industry, like any business, is a constant work in progress. So we do want to improve from yesterday, even from our best days or our worst days, not just our worst days. So I think every restaurant owner, every business owner needs to learn how to be resilient and not just be weakened by a lot of negative things. You know, those are things that allow you to grow. Every mistake allows you to learn something. You know?
Okay, given the positions you hold at Resto.ph and managing your own restaurants, what insights have you gained into the Filipino consumer and into the palate of the Filipino? How has that even changed over the last couple of years?
It's very unpredictable. Now I know that. After being in this business for 15 years. What you think you know, you don't. So,
be prepared to chuck it out the door. Okay.
I mean, you think we try our best to present something in a special way, and what the customer wants was something more basic. And then when we try to give them something more basic, no, they wanted something more exciting. It's a constant adjustment.
Is the customer still always right? Does that mantra hold true?
I would argue that we want the customer to be right. We want the customer to always be right. But even when they're wrong, we try to make it right. So if they want my tom yum without spice, that becomes sinigang. We can't do that for them. We have to serve them what we know. Otherwise, they just won't be satisfied with what we serve.
Okay, your favorite restaurants or places to eat in the Philippines, excluding your own?
You'd be surprised, actually. It's actually my mom's house. And home cooking is kind of like what I like. So when we build our restaurants, we want to present a home cooking vibe. We're not trying to look for a posh restaurant. But when I travel around the Philippines, it's the smallest carinderia. That's my favorite, where they have the inasal. My favorite is simple, tapsilog. It's nothing more complicated than that, but there are ways of presenting it that is still very authentic to the hometown.
Yeah, and sometimes you just don't want to deal with the hassle of having to procure the ingredients, make it, and then clean up afterwards. So thank you for all that you do in the restaurant industry, Eric.
Thank you. My pleasure.
All right, and that's it for today's show. I'm Maiki Oreta. Catch the Bilyonaryo News Channel on Free TV Channel 31 and on cable via Signal Channel 24. Thanks for watching the Bilyonaryo News Channel, always on top.